The towering steeple of St. Alphonsus Church, one of the highest for miles, has served as a landmark, a directional reference point for generations of Chicagoans for the past 120 years. Located at the corner of Southport, Wellington, and Lincoln, St. Alphonsus is the center of its Lakeview community. With its perfect Gothic lines and beauty, it's a magnificent work of art that literally towers over the neighborhood. The beautiful blue Bedford rock facade, curving stairways, spacious veranda, and stained glass windows make St. Alphonsus one of the best examples of Gothic architecture in the Midwest. Founded by the Redemptorist Order in 1882 as a German national church, St. Alphonsus served the German communities in the Lakeview area. St. Alphonsus was built under the direction of Father Essing, who was then pastor of St. Michael's. This was a blessing to the German families in Lakeview, who walked 3 to 4 miles every Sunday to attend Mass at St. Michael's, the closest church to them at the time. By 1889, it was apparent that a larger church would be needed to accommodate the ever-expanding parish. That church, with a cost of over $100,000, could not have existed without the hard work of Reverend William Lowekamp and the unabated enthusiasm of the parishioners, who supported the growth of the church despite the high costs to rebuild. They prayed, contributed gifts, and rebuilt St. Alphonsus into the spectacular work of art that we know today. But St. Alphonsus was no stranger to adversity. 2 major fires put the resolve of the parish to the test. The first, on Thanksgiving Day 1939, was one of the most destructive fires ever on the city's north side. On October 23, 1950, fire struck St. Alphonsus again. This blaze, much larger than the first, could not have come at a worse time. Workers had just completed the interior of the church and were in the process of replacing the old roof when the fire broke out. Parishioners couldn't believe their eyes as their beloved church became a blazing inferno. Joe Riffner, a longtime parishioner and deacon at St. Alphonsus, witnessed the disaster.
I was going to the academy at the time, and I took the Lincoln Avenue bus home. There were people everywhere, and there had to be 6,000-7,000 people on the street just watching. And I was just awestruck at the fact that the roof collapsed and the altar was not touched. It was not scratched, it was not damaged, not even a finger off a statue was broken. It just made me think that, you know, hey, God's watching over this altar, and there's got to be a reason this church has to be here.
Devastated but not defeated, the parish and its neighbors pulled together and raised $800,000 to rebuild their landmark church. On Thanksgiving Day 1952, St. Alphonsus opened its doors again and embarked on a new beginning. That was 50 years ago, and now St. Alphonsus, the church the parishioners and reverend pastors worked so hard to build and rebuild, is in desperate need of restoration again. Following in the footsteps of his forefathers, Reverend James F. Hurlburt, current pastor of St. Alphonsus, will lead parishioners on this new capital stewardship campaign.
I came here January 1st, 2000 from St. Anne's in Barrington, where I'd been for about 3.5 years as associate pastor. What I found in the 2+ years that I've been here is that people have responded amazingly to almost every initiative, and it's not just my initiatives. We've got a great staff, and we've got great parishioners who are involved with things. What's become clear to me is that this parish was ripe. It really has been poised for a kind of rejuvenation. People want to see this place succeed, and they love coming here to worship. I think one of the reasons that we've had such success over the past couple of years, and the reason that I expect that we'll continue to have success, is because we're really trying to reach out and say, this is your parish. Let's get rolling. You walk into this church, and the first thing you're struck by is its beauty. But if you spend a few more moments here and look around, what's clear is that there's so much maintenance and so much work that's been deferred. We felt the time was right to embark upon a campaign to restore the church. One of the things that's broken my heart since I've been here is talking to people who have been parishioners all their lives, but they can't get into the church anymore because they can't climb the steps. It's actually a scandal this day and age to not have handicap accessibility, and it's even more of a scandal when people who have worshiped somewhere all their lives have to stop worshiping there because they can't get in. So the issue of handicap accessibility is something that we need to address. Somebody was telling me that they were watching the movie Going My Way, and there's a scene in it where Father Flanagan is trying to raise money to replace the boilers at his church. And what struck them was they think that the boilers that he was trying to replace in this movie that was made in the 40s, those boilers were newer than our boilers are now. So the boilers they were trying to replace in the 40s were newer than the ones that we've got here in 2002. We have just gorgeous stained glass windows. People love to come into church and just walk around and look at the stained glass windows. But if you look a little closer, actually it's easier to see this from the outside, you'll see that they're encased in wooden frames and that wood is rotting. And so while the windows are in good shape, if we don't address the concerns of the decaying wood quickly, they won't be in good shape for long. One of the things that strikes people who look around the church are the Stations of the Cross, beautifully done in plaster work. However, water damage that has come through the walls of the church has gotten to the point where people describe a couple of the Stations of the Cross as melting because the plaster has been so seriously damaged. We need to work on those. One of the things that everybody would love to see done, and they'd love to see this done right away, is they'd love to see the church painted. In addition to the fact that the paint just looks old and stained, you look up and you see large chunks of paint falling off the ceiling. This is a huge church, and it's all brick. Brick needs, on a regular basis, tuck pointing. We're not sure when the last time was that the church was tuck pointed, but it's clear from the conditions of the walls and the inside that water is seeping in. And so we've got to address the issues of tuck pointing on the exterior that need to be addressed before we can begin the work on the inside. The electrical system in the church, from what I can tell, was probably last worked on after the fire, so it's probably at least 50 years old, and it really needs to be redone. The lights have been adjusted over the years. New lights have been added just kind of sporadically. So overall, there's a need for rewiring in the church and some new lighting systems to just help to bring out the majesty of this great building. One of the things that I know drives parishioners up the wall is the condition of our kneelers. We've had people come in and work on them and try to repair them, but the way they were engineered, they are just designed to break over and over again. And so probably one of the less costly items, but which will be most greatly appreciated, will be to replace the kneelers. We have what's considered one of the finest organs in Chicago. At least that's what my music director tells me. It's a Cassavant organ. They bought it from a church in Michigan. However, they didn't purchase kind of the finishing touches. It really needs some a facade and some casework, both for beauty from the standpoint of aesthetics, but also to help better direct the sound into the congregation. We find ourselves here in 2002 poised in so many ways for growth and development. More and more people have gotten involved in the parish over the years, and it's clear that the time is right to do something. From the first day I got here, the point that parishioners made clear to me was that they wanted to see this church restored. This is our opportunity. This is our vehicle.
The generations that came before us found the strength and fortitude to build, then rebuild our church. They enabled us, 120 years later, to find a home, a faith, and a sense of community at St. Alphonsus. Let's seize this opportunity to give back to this parish so that we might preserve the traditions of St. Alphonsus for our children and the generations to come.